Welcome to Kickin' with the Rickens, redefining retirement. Gerry Ricken and Heidi Ricken Provost want to help you retire with purpose and live with joy. Find more information, including how to reach the team, in today's show notes. Now, Kickin' with the Rickens, powered by Ricken Financial.
Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for downloading. Thanks for listening to Kick In with the Rickens podcast. We are here with retirement planner Heidi Ricken Provost and licensed insurance professional Gerry Ricken. My name is Mark Owens. We invite you to get more at rickenfinancial.com. You can get all the information here in the show notes. Thanks again for subscribing. Now, let's get to the show. I want to get your take on annuities, Heidi, and especially how it can help us also kind of preserve our assets. What's your thoughts?
I feel like annuity is a 4-letter word when it comes to retirement planning, and people are so afraid of them. And I understand, because if you had your grandparents' annuities, to be blunt, they weren't great, So if that's your knowledge base, or if you're a keyboard warrior and you spend a lot of time on the internet researching things, the people who are going to put their opinion out there, because you're probably not really finding much fact. The people who are putting their opinion out there are doing so because we live in an environment where they're trying to sell something else.
Yeah.
So, it's really hard to find the info if you're, sitting here and Googling it, much like it would be hard for me to find the real info if I had a medical issue and I'm sitting here and Googling it instead of talking to my doctor. But, when they work well, they work so well that they're a beautiful part of a lot of retirements. But when they don't work well, like everything else in retirement planning, it's not one size fits all. So just because, we're a proponent of preserving some of your assets with the option of a fixed indexed annuity, doesn't mean that it's the only thing we have to offer. It's the only thing that's going to fit into your portfolio. Mm-hmm. But when it does fit into your portfolio and into your full retirement plan, it's a beautiful addition to your retirement plan.
That's so true, because, there are all kinds of different options that we provide people, Mark, and annuities is just one of those.
Yeah.
But just as Heidi said, when they fit well. When they don't, they don't.
And what they do very well is preserving your assets, because as long as that insurance company standing behind it is solid and solvent, and you're not choosing some C-rated, whatever, you got to make sure you have a good, solid financial backing to it. Then, there's preservation of wealth in there. Sometimes you can have some income in there, but, like I said, it's not one size fits all. And the only downside really that I've seen in the types of annuities that we provide is not really a downside. It's just that you're not 100% fully liquid until year 10. Mm-hmm. So if you need more liquidity than that, but you're still concerned about our market, because let's be real, we have a concerning market situation at the moment, not just because of the volatility we've experienced so far this year. I don't know, when we started a world war and, with tariffs and gas prices and all this other stuff happening, but because for so many years, our market's been at an all-time high. Mm-hmm. And what goes up must come down at some point in time. So I feel like we've all kind of been sitting on the eggshell for a while, waiting for it to crack underneath us, because at some point in time, we're going to have a market correction. I mean, we just can't stay at an all-time high for the rest of our lives. So if that's a concern and you need more liquidity than that, there are other options available for you too. So, maybe you've never heard of this, or maybe you're very intimately aware of them, but you also have some structured notes available to you to help provide, preservation of your wealth. There's actually one called principal protection. That's the name of the note itself. And if you're not aware of what a structured note is, it's an institutional investment that you make with a bank. You're not invested at the bank or in the bank, but you're invested in the market. And if the market goes up, you get the upside. If the market goes down, there's a bunch of different ones, whether or not you make money on the market downside, you might lose money on the market downside, and it may not affect your value at all based upon which one you're in. But let's talk principal protection. That's the name of the structured note we're going to talk for a second here. And here's the gist. Instead of a 10-year time period for liquidity, you might have like 24 months or 18 months, something like that, a shorter time period. And if the market goes down, you don't lose anything. If the market goes up, you get a portion of the upside. So it's very similar to a fixed index annuity with a couple differences. It's a 24-month or 18-month, based upon what's available in the open market at the time, timeline. And then the only other major difference is, unlike the fixed index annuities that we provide here, this does have fees associated with it as well.
The other thing you mentioned, Heidi, is liquidity. And when you think about liquidity, it's a liquid asset all the way through. I mean, you could sell it in the open market. Even though it's a 2-year term, you could sell that in the open market because it is a living, breathing security that's marketable out there and has value every day of its, and it's actually liquid every day.
And, it's going to be hard for us to dive into all the specifics of what a structured note is and what types are out there and what may or may not work well in your portfolio. So, if you've heard us say this once, you'll hear us say it a million times. Nothing is one size fits all when it comes to retirement planning. But if you want to learn more about what a structured note is, or if it might benefit you in your retirement plan, we'd love to have a conversation. Simply give us a buzz at 314-207-6211. And we can start the conversation. So 314-207-6211. We can kind of dive in to that principal protection and then maybe, talk about the 5 or 6 other types of different structured notes that may benefit you as well and see what really works in your plan.
Before we continue this conversation, real quick, Heidi, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago about you talk to the family members you serve that say, hey, I read this online, or I saw a link, or I saw an article or a commercial. How much misinformation is out there that you're seeing from the families you serve? Is it out there? Is it in our face a lot? Or is it, hit and miss?
Like everything else on the internet, we see a lot more misinformation than correct information.
Okay.
I guess that's the PC way to put it. More often than not, anytime someone's bringing something to our attention, it's an editorial piece and an opinion piece. It is not a factual piece. And it's really hard to find the facts. And I'll tell you, we don't sit here and put the facts out on our own website because I love you, compliance, but oh my Lord, we would go back and forth for 2 years with compliance to make sure that the language was such that you could digest it, but also be factual. And that's why a lot of us who are, I don't know if I would say experts in the field, but who are professionals who do this every single day, who know what they're doing, they're not going to put their information out on the internet because we actually have someone to answer to. It's the insurance commissioner in the state of Missouri, the SEC. We have to answer to them. We have to ensure that everything we're doing is compliant. So, if you want the information, you can come in and we're going to get it to you. But at the end of the day, when you're Googling this kind of stuff, you're going to come across so many people who are putting their opinion pieces out there because they're trying to push their agenda. And we don't have an agenda to push here. The only agenda we have is your agenda. We want to ensure that your retirement has a solid plan that can weather any storm you're going to be facing during your entire retirement years. And that, what you're doing is in your best interest. So we talk about all sorts of different types of ways that you can accomplish your goals. And this is just a part of the puzzle. But, what's most important to us is your plan, not our opinion.
Yeah. And as a kid, mom always said, don't believe everything you read and don't believe everything you hear.
Yes, sir.
You have to do your due diligence. And when maybe you're having a conversation with your spouse and you say the word annuity because you're talking about what your investments are, and all of a sudden your news feed pops up an opinion about an annuity, is just like saying solo stove. And once you do that, all of a sudden the solo stove hits you from all different directions. But that's what happens. And that's the environment we're in. There's so much information out there and so many ways to push information and misinformation to people that it's frightening.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is to do your due diligence and do the research in the proper way, not just looking at opinions out there, which Heidi said, there's so many opinions out there, it scares you.
I worked in sports radio for a long time, and we all wanted to be the first one to break news. If you see that Patrick Mahomes suffers a broken leg. All right. If you see that immediately, they would tell us every time, get it from at least 2 credible sources before you go on the air with it. Because anybody can get a Twitter account. Anybody can get a Facebook account. Anybody can put that video on TikTok right now. And it's essentially the same thing of what you do. So if we see something or we read something and we just think, man, that almost sounds too good to be true, or is that just clickbait, fear-based article? There's nothing wrong with reaching out to the team at Ricken Financial to say, Heidi, Gerry, is this legit?
I also have to say, with the introduction of AI into our world and everything, we know the entire internet game has changed.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm of the age that I grew up with the internet. And I have been around long enough that when I wrote my term paper in high school, we did have the internet available. We didn't have to go in. I mean, I still actually went into physical libraries and did my research and everything too.
Yeah.
But I will never forget my teachers saying Wikipedia is not a source because anyone can put anything on Wikipedia. Okay, that was back then. Today, basically the entire internet is Wikipedia because everyone's putting their opinion pieces out there, and it's very hard to go back and find the citations of the sources for the knowledge. So, you just have to take everything with a grain of salt. But at the end of the day, if you're sitting here doing all this DIY stuff, we do wish you the best of luck, but you're probably not going to have all the resources available at your fingertips that we do in the professional world doing this every single day as a living. So we'd love the opportunity to see how we can help you because, we've seen all those Pinterest fails and they even had TV shows about it, about people that don't know how to bake something properly and they follow all the instructions of the recipe.
Yeah.
We don't want that to happen to your retirement. We want to make sure that you have a solid plan. So we'd love to start that plan, but it simply starts with a conversation. You just have to give us a buzz at 314-207-6211 and let's get together and see how we can help.
We've been talking about a lot of aspects of building the retirement plan that fits your needs, but sometimes we need to break it down, Heidi, and kind of get back to basics. How do we begin building that retirement strategy?
A lot of people come to see us and they say, well, I have a retirement plan because they have an asset. They have a 401k or an IRA or a TSP or a 403b or yada, yada, yada. They have an asset that they have accumulated over the course of their working years. But that's not a plan. That's simply an asset, an investment.
And people do get confused because it's called a 401k plan, and they believe it's a retirement plan because they've been indoctrinated with that language.
Oh, I don't know, because a TSP is a thrift savings plan.
Yes.
Just because plan is in the name doesn't mean it's a retirement plan. A retirement plan does include your assets. Don't get me wrong. It's incredibly important for it to include that. But it's going to include so much more than that. It's a plan for the unknowns during your retirement years. So it includes your income needs. How much do you want to spend? How much do you need coming in to be able to spend on all of your expenses in your retirement years? So an income plan of some sort. And that's also going to include what is your strategy for drawing your Social Security benefits and your pensions that are available to you? And then where are you going to come up with the income outside of that? So it starts with an income plan. Then we're going to look at the investments. The investments, which are what, we talked about earlier that people might think might be a plan. Those investments, where are they invested? How are they invested? What are those investments doing for you? And are they matching your risk tolerance? Because in the event of a market correction, when you're on the precipice of retirement or you're in the first 10 years of your retirement years, if we have a market correction and you're not invested based upon your risk tolerance, that's the point in time we can see your entire retirement unravel. So we have your income and your investments. We're going to take a look at the taxation because, believe it or not, if we don't take tax into the equation, because taxes are going to be your largest lifetime expense.
Mm-hmm. Could you please repeat that, please?
Yeah, taxes are going to be your largest expense in your lifetime. Even if you do effective tax planning, taxes will still probably be your largest expense in your lifetime. Unless you're spending some wild money on something. And if you are, we really want to talk because I want to hear what you're spending more money on than taxes in your lifetime. But you have to have a strategy for how taxation is going to enter the picture here too. And then what about long-term care and health insurance? Because at all points in time, we need to ensure that we have the right health strategy, whether it's, Medicare and a supplement or an Advantage plan, or you need insurance before you hit age 65. And then what if you do need the long-term care? What kind of coverage do you want? How do you want to be cared for? What's the strategy for that? And life insurance. Do you need life insurance for the death benefit? Do you want to utilize life insurance for any of the living benefits? Because that's treated different in, the Internal Revenue Code than anything else. And, so now we have our income, our investments, our taxation, our life insurance, our health insurance, our long-term care. What about your estate plan? Because you always want to ensure that what you're doing is, your entire life savings is not going to go through probate and have a bunch of people argue about it, but go to the people that you love. So you want to ensure that you've set up everything up properly with your beneficiaries and the right structure in your estate planning too.
And one of the things involved in estate planning too, Heidi, is, as you know, taxation, because a lot of people leave the wrong assets behind, because it will bite you and bite your beneficiaries with the IRS being one of your biggest beneficiaries. And that's one of the things we focus on as well.
So you add all that up, and that's kind of like the structure of what you need to plan for your retirement and what your retirement plan needs to include. But, here we do things a little bit different. So before we even get into all the nitty gritty of that piece of the plan, the very first question we're going to ask you is, okay, the day has come, you go to retire. What do you want to do with your time? What's your purpose going to be? What's going to feed your soul? What's going to bring you joy every single day? Because we hope that when you're working, what you do for a living feeds your soul. Mm-hmm. And when you go to retire, we want to ensure that what you're doing with your time is exactly what you worked so hard to retire to. So until you can answer that question, it's hard to put that whole plan together, because if your purpose is, I want to travel the world, we might need an extra budget for that. If your purpose is, I want to spend time with the grandkids, great. We might need an extra budget for that too. We've talked about this with you before, Mark. Mm-hmm. When your mom went to retire, she's like, this is awesome. Now I get to spoil the grandkids every day. Every person has a different answer for what's going to feed their soul and bring them joy every day. And if we don't know what that is, it's hard to build a plan around that. But once you know what that is, it is so much fun to build an entire plan centered around that. And our plan is called the Purpose Approach, because we want you to take a purposeful approachment to your retirement, plan with purpose, and then you just get to retire and enjoy everything. You might be curious of how we walk through the Purpose Approach. And it starts with this, a phone call to 314-207-6211. Give us a little bit of time, a little bit of information. We'll meet together, and here's how it really works. Let's meet in our office. We'll go through, what you've done so far to plan and what your financial world kind of looks like if you don't make any changes. What have you saved? What are you spending? All the ins and outs that are going to affect you between now and age 100. And over the course of a couple meetings, we'll show you, is that going to work? Or do we need to make some tweaks to ensure that your plan is going to weather all of the storms you're going to be facing in your retirement world? And it's entirely up to you, whether you move forward with us or not. But it all begins with a phone call to 314-207-6211 and a willingness to share, because we need to share your information, what your purpose is, and then all of the financials behind it to ensure that we can put a plan together for that purpose.
And, Heidi mentioned it's just going to take a little bit of time. What we found is that a lot of people just don't dedicate the time to this because they believe they have that plan. They believe it's a 401k plan. They believe they have that retirement plan already in existence.
Or they're afraid.
Or they're afraid to even show their cards, because when you go to the doctor and he says, take your clothes off, that's an uncomfortable situation. Well, this is taking your financial clothes off.
Don't worry. You can keep your actual clothes on. Please do when you come see us.
Absolutely.
It's preferred.
You don't need to take the clothes off. You just need to open up the paperwork and show us a little bit.
That's right. But don't spend more time planning, a boy's golf trip or a women's day at the lake, right, or your family vacation. don't spend more time on those things than you do on your entire retirement life, because a lot of people tend to just defer and defer and defer. And all of a sudden, oh my gosh, it's time to retire. What do I do now? We don't want you to be in that situation. It's never too late. It's never too early. It's always the best time is to start today.
And at the end of the day, you don't have to do this alone. It's a lot. It can feel very overwhelming to walk through each of the steps and components of a retirement plan. So let's walk through it with someone who's done this every single day for their career. We'd love to do it with you and, have a teammate in this, because someone's got to quarterback your retirement. You can't just walk through your retirement with no real direction or guidance. And we'd love to be that quarterback. So give us a buzz at 314-207-6211 to see if we might be the right fit.
Because we are feeding our soul by doing what we're doing. And this is our purpose in life. And we want to find out what yours is.
Heidi, plan with purpose and finish that for me. What did you say you said?
When you plan with purpose, you can retire with joy.
314-207-6211, or again, online at rickenfinancial.com, RICKEN, rickenfinancial.com. As always, Gerry, Heidi, thank you. Thank you for the information, and thank you for the education this weekend. We are back next weekend, but before we get out of here, take us home.
Every day is a holiday.
Life is short. Laugh hard.
This has been Kickin' with the Rickens, redefining retirement.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Ricken Financial LLC. Ricken Financial LLC is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Ricken Financial LLC are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Ricken Financial LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Ricken Financial LLC.
Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.
Tax preparation and tax advisory services are offered through Ricken Financial. These services are not offered by IPW and are not subject to investment advisor requirements. These services referenced are an outside business activity not offered through or supervised by IPW.